Welcome to this presentation of the Rotary Club of North Bethesda, Maryland, USA. Our club was established in 1974. We meet every Friday morning at 7:45 a.m., and we often invite guest speakers to give presentations on all kinds of interesting subjects. Please contact us through our website at nbrotary.org. And thanks for watching. Our speaker today is Dr. Bruce Davis. He will be telling us about the Climate Change Conference in Glasgow, Scotland in 2021.
Well, Bruce Davis is a good friend of mine. He and I became acquainted through one of my photography clubs, and he and his wife are both excellent photographers. But he had a professional experience both in education and in the legal field. He is a lawyer by training. But when he retired, he wanted to do something important, and we both have that same kind of concept. He became trained in the leadership program for climate reality project. I have felt, and he is of the same mind, that one of the biggest issues, if not the biggest issue, facing mankind, is maintaining our environment so that we further generations can continue to live and enjoy this earth the way we have enjoyed it. Unfortunately, that is something I was motivated to do back in the 80s and 90s, but devoted my life to work for the Nature Conservancy. And Bruce has picked up that same mantle and is well informed on what's going on in the scientific world.
Okay. How much time? Well, really till 8:30 is when we finish, but you're welcome to stay afterwards. Okay. We'll go. I'm going to skip over that. First, I'm going to talk about some of the things we've seen this year that are the result of the climate problem. And the first is we've had a great number of forest fires in the West, drought in California, forest fires in California. From July to October, the Dixie Fire burned, 1 million acres in 5 California counties. So we're seeing drought, we're seeing these forest fires. In the slide you'll see the smoke, and it's getting as far as Colorado. Can you hear? Speak up. Speak up. Okay. But we had a similar. My wife and I had a similar experience in Canada. We were in Edmonton, and just a long way from the West Coast. And for a couple of days we couldn't breathe. So fires are getting to be a problem. And in addition to the irritation, the fires create microscopic particles that get into the lungs, so they're a real health hazard. So there's an entire study of wildfires and what they are doing to people. We've also seen what we call sunny day flooding, which is this is a photo from Annapolis, totally sunny day, no storms, but because the seas are rising, we are seeing more and more sunny day flooding. The UN did a technical report on this flooding, and we are going to see more of it. We lost a young man in Rockville. He was drowned in a flash flood. He was tried to rescue his mother, who was in the basement apartment, or he thought so. She was actually saved, but he went in to try to save her, and unfortunately he drowned as a result of this flash flood, which basically inundated a number of basement apartments, and that's very close to home. the UN has come out with 3 reports this year. This is the 6th assessment. The assessment comes out in 3 different chapters. The first one is the science of global warming. This time, the UN did not mince any words. They say it is indisputable that human activities are causing climate change, making extreme weather events, and these are going to get worse over time unless something is done. We'll get into the second and third reports. The second one dealt with adaptation, and the substance of the second report is that we are not going to be able to adapt fast enough to cope with the changes that are coming. And certainly other animals and creatures that are on our planet are not going to be able to adapt fast enough either. So that's the adaptation report. The latest report, which came out in April, which we'll talk about, is the report on mitigation. Mitigation is basically things we can do to stop climate change, and we'll talk more about that. But the basic message is we've got to do more. We're not doing enough. In October and November, there was a big conference that you heard about. It's called COP26. COP stands for Conference of Parties. This is the 26th Conference of Parties that has occurred as a result of the Paris Climate Accord. And the summary of that is much was accomplished, but there's much more that needs to be done. So there were a lot of pledges about reducing carbon emissions, a lot of pledges about reducing methane, which is a greenhouse gas that's even stronger than carbon dioxide. Many pledges. Countries are working hard. They decided to meet every year instead of every 5 years because of the urgency of the problem. But this is what the president of the conference had to say when all was said and done. He says we can say with credibility that we have kept 1.5 degrees alive. 1.5 degrees centigrade is kind of the target that the international community has established for limiting the increase in global warming. It starts with pre-industrial levels. So we're now at 1.1 degrees Celsius above what pre-industrial levels were. The goal is we know we're going to keep on getting warmer, and the goal is to try to keep it to 1.5 or less. The president of the conference says 1.5 still has a pulse, but it's very weak. So that was his medical analogy, and we're in serious trouble. The thermometer graph you have on the right is by the Carbon Institute. This was their analysis of what the prospects were for keeping 1.5 alive. For this chart here, you see if we do business as usual, we're going to be at 2.7 degrees we're going to be at 2.7 degrees, much higher than 1.5. And this is the optimistic scenario here. Even if you make the most optimistic assumptions, we're probably not going to hit 1.5. It could happen, but probably won't, even if we make the most optimistic assumptions. So we need to do a lot more to reduce carbon emissions. And how do we do that? We've now had, here's the highlights from the 6th assessment report that just came out on April 4th. Without immediate and deep emission reductions, limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees is not going to be possible. We need to strengthen global climate commitments, and they talk about demand, side mitigation. What is meant by demand side mitigation? The problem is that human consumption of goods and services has outpaced what our efforts are to reduce carbon emissions. The utilities, businesses have been working to reduce carbon emissions, and to a certain extent, they have succeeded. So the carbon emissions per kilowatt hour of electricity have gone down. Transportation is getting better. So we are making progress in reducing the amount of emissions for various activities that we do. But the problem is our economies are growing, we're doing more and more of these activities, and the benefit and economic growth and increased economic activity is heating up the world faster than climate mitigations can cool the world down. So that's the problem. And so demand side mitigation is basically the idea that in order to get carbon emissions down, we have to consume less. We have to make less demands on the world's resources. And the finger gets pointed at us, who are people who are living in the most prosperous countries in the world, or 10% of the world is responsible for about 50% of the carbon emissions. So doing more with less, living more sustainably is something that we all need to do. Here's the ways to stop global warming. If I just give you an overview to talk about what needs to be done, it's very simple. We need to stop burning fossil fuels for energy. And that means, first thing is to have everything more energy efficient. You may have heard about the Montgomery County is going, they've got a BEPS program that the legislature is considering in Montgomery County, building energy efficiency standards. So they're trying to make buildings more efficient. And it turns out that about 40% of carbon emissions in Montgomery County are attributable to buildings and heating and cooling. So if we can make buildings more efficient, that's going to cut down our carbon footprint. So we've got to use less energy, and the energy we get has to be more we've got to use it more efficiently. We've got to produce carbon-free electricity, which we are doing with wind power, solar power. Fortunately, this is increasing and becoming less expensive. And to a certain extent, nuclear power. Nuclear power is not renewable, but at least it doesn't emit carbons when you use atomic energy to generate electricity. And then finally, if we get enough carbon-free electricity, then we need to try to electrify the economy. So such things, heating, cooling, using heat pumps, using heat pumps for heating and cooling, using heating for kitchens. So just basically to electrify everything and use clean electricity. So that's what we need to do with regard to energy use. We have to reduce non-combustion greenhouse gases. The most prominent of these is methane. Methane's basically the main ingredient of natural gas that we use to heat and cool. So we've got to phase out methane. Methane is also a problem because from food, actually. Cows are big offenders. Cattle have a digestive system. 1 minute?
Yeah.
1 minute. Okay. So I've got a lot of reasons not to eat beef. One of them is if we don't eat beef, we're going to get a lot less methane in the air. And we're probably going to be healthier. We're going to be healthier with a plant-based diet. So something everybody can do, everybody eats, and something that everybody can do is to eat less meat. And I haven't eaten beef for about 30 years, and I don't miss it at all. I still eat, I'll eat chickens, but they're not nearly as bad as cows. And then finally, we've got to preserve, restore, and grow ecosystems like trees, forests that take carbon out of the air. So we've got to take care of natural systems in our national parks, our forests, and other systems that take methane out of the air or take carbon out of the air.
I just want to pause for a second. Continue discussion and answer questions. I believe there'll probably be questions, but I want to make sure that everybody knows that that officially ends the Rotary meeting. We're so sorry for the technical delays. Thank you so much for coming to speak with us. Hopefully we'll come back again. For the rest of you, go forth, be good Rotarians. Hopefully we'll see you. I won't be here next week, but I'll be here the week following. So go forth, be good Rotarians, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Please continue.
Anybody who wants to stay around and ready to answer questions or go through the rest of the program? Yes, sir.
I just want to make a comment. The economic impact of the not reduce the carbon emissions is $2 trillion a year. 2 trillion.
Be careful.
Not reducing the carbon footprint that we are creating. It's a $2 trillion a year. This is a huge economic impact.
That's the economic cost of not controlling it.
Exactly.
We can supercharge our economy by going to carbon free.
Yeah.
That, I mean, it can be a win-win situation, but it requires people to change. People don't want to change.
I definitely feel like it's the next wave of technology. We want to be selling our technology to the rest of the world.
Yeah,
In terms of just pure capitalism and trade, that's where I'm coming from. In my business, right? And I mean, we really want to be I don't want to miss out on the next Model T. I don't want to, we can't miss out on it. That's my.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bruce, so keep on, Bruce.
Yeah, keep going.
We're seeing a lot of momentum with electric vehicles now being promoted. Is that going to have a major impact?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. Electrification of vehicles is going to be very important. You can go on the Montgomery County government is sponsoring an electric vehicle cooperative. And the idea is that the county will try to negotiate with dealers to sell electric vehicles at reduced prices for people who join the cooperative. And right now, what the county is asking is that people sign up, make a pledge that the next vehicle will be electric. And by collecting a lot of these pledges, the county believes it will be able to make good deals with manufacturers and people will be able to get electric cars reasonably. My wife and I were early adapters. We bought ourselves a Kia Niro 2 years ago. We love the car, and it gets the equivalent of about 112 miles per gallon if you convert the electric gas. The equivalent of a gasoline car that gets 112 miles a gallon. Has no tailpipe emissions, and frankly, electricity is cheaper than gas.
The Tesla Model S Plaid goes 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds. So there's another selling point for 1.9. It's a 9-second quarter mile car, which is like,
That's all that you're.
that's pretty much all. I'm saying your car, but
The roast is going to be 1 second.
But if you want to do something easy to promote electric cars, sign up for the Montgomery County Electric Vehicle Co-op. You can Google it, and it'll help get this co-op up and running.
We had a speaker, John Cullen, from the EZ Club DC,
Yes.
as a speaker here about a month ago.
Oh, good.
So
Yeah.
we have a recording of that too.
Good. Yeah. I know him. He and I are both on the reality. Yeah.
That's great. I have a question. It's time for me to replace my furnace for heating. A gas furnace. I'm thinking about getting a heat pump, and I'm wondering about the challenge, the pros and cons. I know the pros, but what are the cons of a heat pump system?
See you. Thank you.
heat pumps are they're kind of gaining popularity. And the question is, one of the questions is, do you want to use a heat pump that works with ambient air? Or do you want to get a heat pump that works with geothermal? And I know that GAC Services is a local company that has installed heat pumps. They can probably, they would be people who have some experience in this, but it's just catching on.
It would probably be geothermal, right?
How do you get geo?
You have to dig.
You have to dig it.
Geothermal.
Geothermal is you basically take advantage of the heat that's underground. And that's traditionally, subsurface temperatures are relatively constant, even though it gets pretty cold. So basically, there's a lot of water pipes that go from your house to underground. And in the summer, what the heat pump does is it takes heat out of your house and dissipates it into these underground water pipes. And in the winter, the heat pump reverses, takes heat from the ground, brings it into your house. So that's how a heat pump. It's like an air conditioner that runs both ways. And it's instead of pumping heat in and out of the air, it pumps heat in and out of the ground.
Well, I know one of my neighbors has one, so there are some around.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Well, wait, your neighbor's probably.
Because electric power is just a really small portion of our total energy. Most of it is heat. And we're stuck with gas.
Right.
Can I just give you a short report from Norway? Norway is probably the most advanced country when it comes to electrical vehicles. We are up to, I think it's close to 70% of all new cars are electric these days.
Wow.
We are very advanced in getting the first ferries and ships electric. We have big ferries running on electric. We even talking about doing all the oil platforms electric from shore. The problem is that you can't say that you're moving from one energy to another energy, because that other energy also needs energy to function. So to say we need to convert to electric cars, well, you need to solve where the electricity is coming from. Because if it's coming from coal, you haven't gained anything. You're rather better off running an old car instead of buying a new car, because it takes energy to produce that car. So in Norway today, we have a dilemma, very big dilemma. The politicians have decided that we need to get down to that 1.5, and probably no way we will make that number. At the same time, we need to continue producing oil, because that's the major income for Norway. Okay? So if we cut that, we cut all the working, and then the country goes bankrupt. So no one is willing to do that. But my point is that one switch is creating another problem, and the other problem is creating a third problem. So if we don't face reality that we have to stop living the way we live, it is no way we can reach that number, because all is cosmetics and political cosmetics. Because if we, as you said, if you don't stop eating the special food, if you don't stop driving the cars, if you don't reduce the number of aircrafts in the air, but still it's a small percentage of the pollution. You know that. The human created pollution is probably less than 10%. Everything else is responsible for the rest of it. So in Norway, they try to do everything right. It's not working out. It's not working out because they are not willing to cut down. They want to do the same thing they have done for years, but at the same time reducing energy. How do you do that?
Yeah,
How do you bring your wife to her club without driving her?
Zoom.
Yeah. Exactly. The Zoom has saved a lot of energy. Companies who used to go from one side of the country to the other side for meetings don't do that anymore. That's the way to go. That's the way to go.
I agree. Reducing consumption is a big.
That's what we have to do.
Big part of the problem.
Yeah.
But electric cars, I don't totally agree with you on electric cars because electric cars are much more efficient than gasoline cars. So you can go a lot. So even if you took 100, even if your electricity came 100% from fossil fuels, you still get a lot more. Electric cars still got, yeah, it still saves a lot.
And they're not emitting pollutants, and the batteries are getting so much better that the costs of the cars are coming down. And the drivetrain of electric car has less than 24 parts.
It's very simple.
It's very simple and very cost efficient. It's more costly to purchase it, but over the long run, it's a lot less costly to operate. This is a system. We have to get to the point that we are phasing out fossil fuels through the normal energies ways that we can do it. We have the sun, we have the wind, we have the ocean, we have the earth. All ways that we can tap different ways of generating power. And how much energy is in ocean waves? We haven't harnessed that yet.
I know.
I mean, some of the technology isn't there yet, but we have to make it a priority.
They will take a long time. We have windmills all the way up the coast in Norway. We still so small percentage of what energy we need. And it takes a lot of energy to produce these windmills too, because they are aluminum. And to produce aluminum, you need a lot of
Hydropower.
Yeah. Of course, we lucky in Norway because we have water. And we use water to produce. But we have done a big mistake in linking our electricity to Europe. So now people cannot afford to buy electricity because the price has gone up so dramatically.
I have a question. Why single out the poor cows? What about the humans and all of the other animals?
Well, why we single out cows? Because just cows have a digestive system, which allows them to eat grass and
Not the elephants?
Well,
Humans?
Cows. If we didn't depend so much on animal food, about 70%. We need about 30% of the land that's now devoted to agriculture, and we wouldn't have problems of people cutting down the Amazon rainforest, which is a carbon sink, to make room for more cattle ranches. So that's one reason. The other is that the cow's digestive system which was adapted for grass feeding, just generates a lot of methane, which the cows burp out. And methane is a greenhouse gas that's over a 100-year period is 40 times more potent than carbon dioxide. Over its lifespan, it's about 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide.
So thinking strategically, should we decimate the animal population of the world?
Oh, come on.
No, the idea is we shouldn't be eating the animals, and we shouldn't be encouraging the growth. Think of what it takes to grow a cow and then eat it. And there's a calculation I do that comes from the University of Michigan that says if you eat a quarter-pounder hamburger, you put about 10 pounds of carbon dioxide in the air. And that's all the all that represents all the methane that the cow has burped and all the food that the cow has eaten. A lot of we have some of the most fertile farmland in the world in places like Iowa. And what they're doing is they're growing soybeans and they're growing corn, and people are using that corn not to feed people, but to feed cows.
Yeah, but to follow up what Klaus is saying, the problem is not the cow. The problem is that we are producing too many cows to eat meat.
Yeah.
That's the problem, because if we had, when I grew up, our farmer had 1 cow or 2 cows,
Yeah.
and they was eating everything they don't need it for anything else. That didn't create any problems at all. But when you have manufacturing plants with cows, where you have 200 cows on this area, that's a problem.
Yeah, right.
So the problem is not the cow, the problem is the people, as always.
Yeah, it's the consumption.
Yeah.
It's the consumption.
The consumption that we are really.
We're not only consuming the cow, we're consuming the land. Because you have to have land to produce the feed for the cow, so it means you've gotten rid of the trees. And all these things, it's a system, nature is a system.
We have to get back to
We've
the.
broken down the system, and we have to recreate the system for us to continue to habitat this world. I mean, people don't realize that if we continue to grow, we're gonna devour the world, and it's not gonna be the same world for future generations.
But no, in Norway, we have too little animals because the country is growing and growing in terms of trees and grass and everything. It's the country is raising because it used to be animals who was eating all this and getting the land under control. Today, the farmers don't get paid for having the animals, so the result is that they get rid of the animals and the country are destroyed. So this is all a circle, and it has to be a balance.
And need a balance.
And the balance is only coming if we stop using too much.
Regarding electricity, I grew up in upstate New York, and we got the bulk of our electricity from Canada. They exported from the hydroelectric dams that they have in Canada. It's totally clean electricity.
Yeah, no problem at all.
We're in Costa Rica last month, they had 97% of their electricity, natural, hydro, that's mostly hydro, one big lake. And pretty amazing. And you have to import it all.
Yeah.
Well, I think we need to wrap
Thank
this
you.
up.
Thank you for the speech.
Bruce, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can't just talk about